Okay, I am sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. Hope you can all hear me. Let's see, we have on my screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people besides myself. So I think 10 people is definitely enough, or small enough to have everybody introduce themselves. I know you probably already know each other because you've been in classes for a while now with each other, but I don't know you, and so I'll call your name out since I can see all of you on my big computer screen, and you could just introduce yourselves by saying to me and everybody else just where you're from, where are you teaching, what's your current teaching position, and anything else interesting about you. And we'll start with Samantha since she's the first on my screen. Yep, you're first.
Make sure to unmute. I'm Samantha Smuz. I am from Botetourt, but I teach in Roanoke City. I teach third grade. And something interesting, I am pregnant with my second child. So
all right, yay!
That's fun.
That is fun. How far along are you, if you don't mind me asking?
22 weeks.
Okay, all right.
It's a little over halfway.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you very much, Samantha. Nice to meet you. Abby, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Abby Snag. I am a third grade teacher at Monterey in Roanoke City, and I'm originally from Botetourt as well.
All right.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. And I'm excited to get started.
Good. Thank you so much, Abby. All right, Kiana, you're next on my screen.
Hey everybody, I'm Kiana Fields. I'm from Roanoke City and I teach 8th grade English in Roanoke City. Okay. And I guess the interesting fact is I watch The Office every day.
That's comfort. That's comfort food right there. Yeah, that's pandemic comfort food. Caitlin, you're next on the screen.
My name's Caitlin Palazzola, and I'm from Roanoke, and I teach at Wasina Elementary in first grade, and I used to watch The Office every day until they moved it to Peacock, so my new one is The Good Girl that I watch on repeat every night.
Nice.
And, what is it? The New Girl. Oh, God, The New Girl.
New Girl.
And another fun fact is my 5-year-old is currently quarantined from her class. So we're juggling how to figure that out right now.
Okay. Yes. Life in the pandemic. It just keeps going on and on. Oh, hi. Oh, that's not your 5-year-old. That's a wee one. A wee one. Okay. Well,
this is the Hellraiser.
That's the Hellraiser. That's Hi. Usually we just see cats crawling across. Now we get a human. I love it. Okay, Blair, you're next up on the list.
Hi, I'm Blair Travis. I I do have a child in sport because I'm in school, but I am now quarantined because of and now I'm showing symptoms. So
okay.
I'm home for a while.
Okay, home for a while. Nice. Thank you, Blair. Mary, you're up next.
I'm Mary Lawson. I teach at Morningside Elementary School. I'm kindergarten. I've got 5 children, but 3 of them are in college, 2 of them are in high school, so I need my kindergartners to keep me young and exhausted.
Oh, yeah. That's funny because usually when I work with kindergartners, it makes me old and turns my hair white. All right. Thank you. Anita?
My name's Anita Ung. I teach first grade at Round Hill Elementary. And the last time we had a professor have us introduce ourselves, I said my husband and I were hopefully getting a puppy. And we have since gotten said puppy.
You
and
did.
He is now 6 months old and trying to eat everything in my
right.
house.
Excellent.
And down for a nap so that I can hear all of you.
Okay, nice. Well, good time for a nap then. Thank you. Okay, and Kara, I know you don't have video, but you're on the screen.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
I'm Kara Neal. I teach kindergarten in Roanoke City. I'm from Radford. I went to RU in my undergrad. I just woke up from a nap
Okay.
because I'm also pregnant. I'm 30 weeks with a little girl, so I'll actually be having my baby during this class.
Okay, extra credit, by the way.
December 21st, so I think it's 2 days before the class ends. But
okay.
So that's all. And I work in Roanoke City. I think I said that. And I live in Benton.
Okay. And yeah, I probably should have told all of you before class started. And Mary, I know you probably wouldn't care about the extra credit option, but having babies is definitely extra credit in this class. 5 is enough, though, Mary. I think. I don't know. So so I don't have first names for Ms. Poff, and I'm sorry that I don't have my class list up.
Sorry, trying to unmute myself.
That's okay.
I'm Melissa Poff.
Melissa, hi.
I teach at, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
I teach at Fleming, English 11 and 12, and ELL, and I'm department chair from Pittsburgh and Floyd County, but I live in Roanoke County right now.
Okay.
I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an about to be 1-year-old deaf puppy who was up here in my face just a second ago.
Okay, nice. Good to have an emotional, a classroom emotional support animal at all times. And the last one, Ms. Mitchell, is that right?
Yes, Jackie Mitchell.
Jackie, hi. I'm sorry, I didn't get your first name.
That's fine. Jacqueline, Jackie's fine. I live out in Boone's Mill. I teach in James Madison Middle School. I teach 6th and 7th grade. And I have 3 dogs.
Okay, very good. And a beautiful red wall behind you. I love the background. Well, it's really nice to meet all of you. I know that you constitute just a little more than half the official class, but you're the good ones, obviously. You're all of you are winning right now, so that's good. My name is Greg Sherman, and I haven't read all the books behind me, as you can see. I actually put this picture up last week when I was teaching another class of mine, and I have a green screen that pulls down because I do a lot of video for one of my other classes. And while I didn't have it down, and while I was teaching, somebody had mentioned that they were trying to read what books I had in the background, and they said, because they said you could tell a lot about a person by the books they have on their shelf. And I said, well, I don't. And they said, all I could tell about you is that you don't do a lot of reading. And I think they were being facetious. I hope they were, but I don't know. And so while we were teaching, I put a picture up with lots of books. So that really isn't my library, as you could tell. But I have been a faculty member at Radford in the School of Teacher Education and Leadership for many years now, almost 20 years now, actually. And I came to Radford through a lot of other jobs, but I started out as a classroom teacher. I was a junior high school science teacher for 10 years before I jumped into higher education. My wife is also a teacher. She's a primary grade teacher and was for many years. And so I have a heart and a true understanding of the value of reading and literacy. So I'm very happy to be part of this cohort, and I'm going to try to make sure that I can rely on you as well as my own resources to make it as meaningful for you as studying in the field of literacy that I can for a class like this. So that's me. I have three children. They're all grown now and out in the real world, I suppose. That's me. I have no pets right now. I had 2 fabulous dogs, and in the last couple of years, I lost both of them. So I'm kind of enjoying not having to take care of anything right now, just for a while before I jump back in, because I know I'm going to jump back in. I'm just kind of enjoying not, because they were old and I had to take care of them more than for those of you who have pets, you know how that goes. So still grieving. There we go. Still grieving. So what I'd like to do for this evening is I want to just give you a brief introduction to the class, sort of a theoretical introduction. And then I want to just walk you through the process of the course and the resources for the course. And most importantly, just ask you if you have any questions about it, because this is an asynchronous class. We'll never have any compulsory online meetings like this. I taught this class during the summertime, which is the last time I taught it, and I did have students who wanted to go over some exam review, and I was very happy to host that. And so people who wanted to show up could, and if that need comes up again this semester, I'm super happy to meet with any of you for any purpose, either in a group or individually. But this is this is our first and maybe the only time that we'll have together. So I just wanted to really be clear about how important a class like this can be. So with that, and again, if you have any questions about anything, you can stop me and ask, or you can save it all till the end when I specifically ask for questions, however you want to do that. Since we have such a small class here, then we can be really organic about this whole thing. But I do want to, I'm going to share my screen for just a few minutes. I have a tiny introductory introduction for you before we jump in. So let me, first of all, okay, I'm going to bring up my... Oh, also, I forgot to say this, but I'm recording the session for the students who aren't here, and you didn't get an announcement from Zoom because I actually don't Zoom that often, and I wasn't logged in as the host, and so I couldn't launch the recorder. So I'm using a different piece of software to record it, and it didn't ask you if that was okay. So I'm just telling you that it's happening, and if you have an issue with it, if you are in some kind of a witness protection program and you just don't want this on the website, please tell me, and I'll pixelate your face and change your voice. So I will do that. So okay, I'm gonna share this screen with you, and hopefully you can all see that. Let me go back to the... Okay. Hopefully you can see this. So this class is an introduction to educational research, and it truly is just an introduction. It's going to introduce you to some of the really important concepts and features of research, but it's going to take a scientific focus, which is the focus that I prefer. And I don't remember, I think I mentioned this when I introduced myself, but I was a science teacher when I was a real teacher. So I will be biased towards the scientific aspect of research. But I don't know about you all, but I think we're living in very interesting times as educators, and I see issues related to research and science really, to me right now, really at the forefront of a lot of what we do as educators. And here's a picture of people at a school board meeting who are insisting that masks that mandating masks is an abusive is an act of abuse, and that's interesting to me, because honestly, I never thought ever in my life that I would witness such a backlash against real basic and fundamental science as I've seen since the pandemic, or since maybe just before the pandemic. And honestly, for me, it's shocking, like shocking. I can't believe what I'm witnessing, and it makes me it initially makes me sad and mad and angry, and then sad again, and then a little bit more sad, and then I remember that my dogs are gone, and then I'm really sad. But the one thing is, I understand when I see a picture like this, I understand it from a particular perspective. But certainly pandemic-related issues in education aren't the only ones. We have people going to school board meetings now that are crying out against school districts teaching critical race theory, and that's as you probably know, for those of you, because you're all in education, they're not complaining or they're not upset about critical race theory, because I have never heard one ever. I've never heard a parent ever explain what that is. But what I do know is that I hear a lot of pushback against anti-racism education. So at one level, I think, well, isn't it great that parents are getting really emotionally involved and just involved in general in what schools are actually trying to teach their children? Like, I love those conversations, and I think they're conversations that need to happen like all the time. And I would love for parents to be as emotional about some other things that we ask students to learn in school. So I love the conversation, but what I don't love is how so many smart people are saying so many stupid things, and it's, again, it's shocking to me. Like it's and I say smart people because I know some people who are pushing back on issues that are really fundamentally related to what's best for everybody, what's truly best. And they're not stupid, but they sound stupid and they act stupid. Another issue that came out recently that I thought, again, it's smart people being stupid to me. And you'll have to forgive me for using the S word. I know as educators we tend to avoid such language, but I will tell you I'm kind of at the end of my rope a little bit regarding people not acting reasonably. Honestly, I am. This is just another story about somebody who happens to be a member of the LGBT community, and they're a teacher, and they were actually fired. They were fired because they had actually mentioned to their students that they were a member of that community, and parents got upset. And this wasn't a fundamentalist Christian school either. This was an actual public school. And the school itself, they took a lot of backlash from teachers, from parents, and terminated the teacher. But then they had to reinstate her, which was a good thing. When you got underneath the story, it was just it's people reacting to things in education from a place that isn't reasonable. But so my question to you related to critical race theory, mask mandates, issues related to gender fluidity, and LGBTQ issues. Why do parents, and in some cases even teachers, react and respond to these issues in education in ways that don't seem very smart? Why do they do that? I really am asking that as a question to you all. It's kind of heavy for a Monday.
I think it can be kind of hard because I think that some of those things become very quickly. Melissa, that's exactly what I was about to say. They become so emotional, whether they should be or not, that people respond from a place of emotion. And so they're not thinking scientifically or logically or necessarily rationally. They're thinking with how they instantly feel. And I think that our culture validates feelings a little more quickly sometimes without encouraging people to critique and question and ask where those feelings are coming from.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that as well. I agree, and I think emotions are a really big part of what we're seeing, right? And emotions are not bad, obviously, and making decisions from an emotional perspective isn't necessarily bad all the time. I think it's probably part of our ability to survive in this world, and also to make choices that in the long run are probably are hopefully going to be very good for us, you know. And for those of you who are who have had children, or who are in the middle of having children right now, one thing that you know as a parent is that there's nothing rational about like taking care of children. It's because it doesn't make, it's a lot of energy, but emotionally, it's one of the most important things you could do. You know, just like trying to make decisions, I suppose, about love. Is that love? You know, those are just we make a lot of choices in our life because of this completely unknowable thing that you can't ever point to and say that's what it is. It's a defined construct of love. And and I love that saying that it's instinctual. So we go with our gut first. Yeah, that's a great comment. And being somebody who was a biology teacher, I've always really loved to think about human instinct and what role it plays, not just in our survival, but also just in how fulfilled we are in our life. But the reason why I wanted to bring up those hot button issues related to education is because because it really helps us focus, like it helps focus attention on what this class is about. Because a research class is not about making decisions. It's not about trying to know something or understand something from any place in yourself that isn't your rational self. And and by the way, that's not true what I just said. You can certainly do great research that is grounded not in rational things, but this class is going to focus on that aspect of knowing something. So even though smart people can say and do stupid things that go against rationality, they're coming from a place that is part of what we all have as people, right? We all have an emotional well that we go to, and that does help us make decisions. But for the purpose of this class, we're going to try to focus all of our attention on rationality, and you're going to understand that better when you get into the very first part of the assigned readings. So I'm gonna talk next. So I brought up some hot button issues that were about related to education, but not related to being a teacher necessarily. I mean, to your job as a teacher. But it gets to oops, gonna go back. Sorry, there we are. It gets to making decisions about things as educators that may or may not be based on rationality. No, I'm going to start with this image here. I'm absolutely 100% confident that all of you have been exposed to the idea that there are different learning styles out there, and that's a truth that you probably embrace as educators because you've seen it with your own eyeballs. You've seen kids who seem to be more receptive in different circumstances, or they seem to process things in different ways. And the classic way of identifying learning styles is to group them into these four distinct areas: the visual learner, the auditory learner, the kinesthetic learner, and the learner who learns very adeptly through reading and writing. And it could be, and you could pick other categories too. But as you likely know, all of that is just made up. You know, there's no such thing as a visual learner or an auditory learner or any of that. I mean, in terms of actual truth, this is just a category that has been made up and has been sort of presented to educators over the years to suggest that kids may not all learn the same, or it's not in their wheelhouse specifically. And as educators, I'm sure you all know that kids don't all learn the same. However, what do you do about this, you know? What do you do if you find out that you have some learners that you can identify and categorize as being visual versus auditory? And does anything that you will do actually make any difference? Because in the area of learning styles, what's interesting is that when you study it, what you find out is that it probably doesn't matter. And I'll give you an example. So there's a real famous studies on learning styles that wanted to teach something really basic. Some basic things and some complicated things. But I'm gonna boil down the results of a study that were trying to teach something basic. And in this case, it was basic vocabulary, basic Spanish vocabulary. So as you all probably can see, there's a duck, actually Donald Duck, and he has a pot on his head. And this was a graphic that was used in this study to teach vocabulary. So this was used in conjunction with the teacher saying that that the word for duck in Spanish is pato. So there were different treatments in this study to help teach kids vocabulary words in Spanish. One of them used an image like this, or a mnemonic image like this. Others were just the word pato, or just the auditory, just somebody saying to the students in an audio file. The Spanish word for duck is pato. Same with, here's a funny image, right? The Spanish word for fork. Anybody know? There's a clue in the picture. It's tenedor. Tenedor. So there's 10 forks in this door. And this was an image that was used to in one of the treatments, along with the word tenedor, and somebody saying the Spanish word for fork is tenedor, and then you could use it in a sentence. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that you would think that if you were a visual learner, that having those images, that you would do a lot better at recalling what the Spanish word for duck is and what the Spanish word for fork is, if you're a visual learner, if you saw those images when that information was first being presented to you. It's all new information. And actually, if you're a visual learner, actually you'd be right in that it would help you remember those words better. But the thing is, it also helped anybody who was identified in the study as an auditory learner. They were also helped by the visual cues just as much as people who were identified as visual learners. There was nobody who was identified as one of these 4 types of learners. Nobody learned better or worse when they had the best option, which was somebody showing this mnemonic cue visually, saying the words, the vocabulary words, in an auditory way. You try it all different ways. You would expect that an auditory learner would learn better, or at least learn better than the others if it was just auditory. And it turned out that that wasn't true at all. That the only difference at all was if it was presented, the information was presented in the best possible way for trying to remember something, for using basic scientific understanding of how people learn and putting that, and that's the environment that they were presented with. So but you would think in a study like that, well, there would be differences. If you're identified as an auditory learner, then you would be able to learn better vocabulary if it was auditory, or at least if auditory was part of the experience. And the fact is, you didn't learn better or worse than anybody else. None of it made any difference. And I'm using a simple example of vocabulary, but there are other examples in these studies about like trying to understand the elements of the solar system. You know, if you're a reading, and if your best way to learn is reading and writing, and you have a paragraph that explains the solar system, you will not learn, understand, and organize the components of the solar system that we know. You will not learn that better without a visual to go along with it, because the model of the solar system is a visual model. So it doesn't matter whether you're a visual learner, auditory, read and write, or kinesthetic, or what. You don't need a model of the solar system to touch it with your hands if you're a kinesthetic learner to learn about the model, how the pieces of the solar system, that there's no data suggests that's going to help you learn that targeted skill associated with understanding the components of the solar system. You'd think there would be. You'd think that because it seems to make sense, but there's no data that supports it in teaching at all, actually. And I could go on, but by the way, about things that you sort of take for granted. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with Howard Gardner's model of multiple intelligences, and even though the model itself has been misconstrued from an educational perspective, from the original model that was put forth by Gardner, who's a fascinating scientist, by the way, very, 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 very bright, I think. But there's nothing about multiple intelligences that about the model that informs good teaching. What it does is reinforce the idea that people learn that everybody has a way that they have characteristics about them that help them make sense of the world around them differently than other people, and that's very true. And you can call that an intelligence if you want, but it doesn't necessarily. Translating that into what teachers should do in their jobs, it doesn't. There's not a lot of very little research suggests that there's anything you can do about that other than try to do the best job you can teaching the things that you want students to learn how to do forever. So speaking of that, I wanted to just present to you that the overall goal in this class is to help you use research and scientific thinking to improve your own practice as educators, and I'm going to try really hard to help you make that connection, because you're going to be learning a lot of new stuff about research that and you may at times not be able to see how it connects to your own job, and I want to really try to help you make that better. And actually, I want to alter this a little bit and say that I want to maintain the hope that using research and scientific thinking can improve education in general. Like that's sort of the hidden curriculum that I have about a course like this, and that I have about students who are graduate students in the field of education. Because sometimes it can seem kind of hopeless that things have gone things have kind of gone from bad to worse in a lot of ways in our field, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm hopeful, anyway, that research and scientific thinking is one way to help for us to try to help make things better. And I actually am going to stop there. I had some more to talk about as far as reading goes, but I do want to say one thing about how this class is structured, and that is I have some information on the course website that I'm going to be presenting to you in a little bit, just the overview of it that addresses kind of the big picture. And one of the things in one of the big graphic pictures that I present is the fact that that science is one way of knowing something, of trying to figure out something. It's one way. It's different from logical reasoning, although there is logical reasoning in the scientific process for sure. But logical reasoning is one way of knowing something. You can sit there and you could just, as teachers, sometimes you could think about all your students and all the different ways that they're learning, and you could try really hard to think about what could you do to help a student who might be struggling. What could you do to help them, that particular student, given who they are, how they've operated in your class, and all of that. And you can logically reason your way to some pretty good solutions. You can do that. Being told something by an expert is also a way of knowing something that's not science, but it's but the expert might be telling you things that are grounded in science or grounded in good old solid experience. Sharing information with others, and also just sensing things, just having a sense about something. All of those are different ways of knowing, but a class like research focuses really exclusively on science as a way of knowing, and we're going to boil it down to two sort of fundamental approaches for doing science. One is the deductive approach, and the other is an inductive approach. And you'll be learning more about that later, but I just wanted to point out that a class like this is about trying to help you figure out how to improve your own practice by learning how to know some new things. And in the big picture, I broke up the course into really 5 parts, and 4 of them explicitly address or follow right along with one of the projects. So I'll talk about that in just a minute when I open up the course website and just give you a quick tour. But it's grounded in a course project that has 4 really important parts to it that are all about science and doing science. So just wanted to point that out to you. So I'm gonna I will save that. I'm now going to bring up the course website and talk about the just the various components and how the course is going to operate. And as many of you, as some of you may know, I put a tour of this, a video tour online. And I will tell you right now that that if there's ever anything that you might not understand, and you contact me and I find out that a number of students have trouble understanding it, I'll probably just put up another page and do a video or something to help you better understand it. But one thing that I mentioned in that video is that on the course website we have syllabus information, and let me just walk through a little bit of the general information with you. And again, if you have any questions about this, please holler at me.
If you're showing us your website, we can't see.
Oh.
I think we're looking at your other screen. We can see like your recording system.
Holy cow, you totally are. Thank you so much. 5 stars for Hufflepuff there. Or 5 points, I should say, right? And I don't know if Hufflepuff was right. I don't know you that well, so I hope you don't take that as a insult. Some people might. I don't know. Let's see. Here I am. Okay. now I think you should see the website. Yes, because I could see the green screen. And again, thank you for letting me know, because I'm not, as you're going to figure out, I don't do a lot of Zooming. So, but here I am at the course website, and you all have the link to that. I sent that to you this morning. As far as the general information on the syllabus goes, I'm just going to quickly go over it with you, so that if something pops up that you might have a question about, you'll be able to ask it of me. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. So, office hours, if you're having trouble with something, I'm happy to arrange a meeting, whatever's good for you. And I'm a night owl, so it could be late at night. I'm not a morning person, though. So if you wanted to try to talk to me before school, I will make that happen if that's our last resort. So just so you know. There's 2 books for the class. One of them is is online. I have links to it. And as I mentioned numerous times, if you absolutely need a hard copy for a book, some people do. I'm kind of that way, to be honest with you. You can Amazon sells it for about $10. And then there's a short little education research book that we're not going to use until I think week 5. So you don't have to get it right now, but it's not very expensive. You can get it on Amazon, and I know it's not $30.
I just ordered it, and I think it was 10.
Oh, 10. Well, that's lovely. That's even better. Excellent. I will tell you, educational research texts are very expensive, and this guy, this faculty member I believe he's from Central Florida, he took a textbook that he was working on, and he turned it into an open education resource, and I was very grateful that he did. And it's not a great textbook, I will tell you that right now, but I would say 90% of the research related concepts and ideas and examples are the same that you would find in any textbook related to educational research. So it works, and it was free. So everybody likes that. I do. As I mentioned, online you have, so that it's two projects. One of them is a big one, and that one carries you through more than the first half of the class. There's 4 course exams, and they're all going to be administered through D2L, and you'll drop the lowest score. And it's been my experience so far that people tend to have a hard time on the first one, and then they get the hang of it and see how it really operates. These are all machine scored questions, so I don't have to grade any of it, but the problem with that is that writing questions like that can be sometimes, since I want you to apply knowledge, it can be sometimes the questions have to be purposefully a little bit more challenging. And so, but I analyze all the data after every exam, and if there's a problem with an item, we will deal with it together. So there's exams, and those exams will all be presented on, I'll make them available on a Friday, and you'll have from Friday morning through Sunday evening, midnight, sometime you have to find some time in that window to take the exam. So, and it'll take between 30 minutes and an hour to finish those exams. But and if you need to make other arrangements because you're going on vacation or you're having babies or other things, just let me know. I know you can't let me know in advance on everything, but I will make accommodations as needed. 2 projects, as I mentioned, and then also there is a small professional learning program that you have to go through online. It's something that everybody who does research through an organization like a university has to complete, and it gives you a background on the what you need to do and how you need to protect human subjects if you're doing research in the social sciences, And so even though you're not doing research in this class, there's a lot of value in going through that online process. And you can go through this whenever you want, from now until when it's due, which is the week before the last week of class. So end of week 6 is when that's due. And I think for me, I've been doing it a while, and the last time I did it, it took me a couple of hours to finish it, but it might take you more than a couple. No, it won't take you, I don't think it'll take anybody more than 3 or 4 hours to finish those little modules. So make sure you, and you can do it at any time. There's no, you don't have to prepare for it, or and it's valuable at any time in the class to finish that. So
do you have to do it all at once?
No, nope. You log in, you create an account at because you're a Radford student. You have a Radford account already. Well, you still have to sign up, and I have a video that shows you how. You still have to sign up, but because it's Radford, you just attach your login with Radford, and then you can come back anytime and finish it. Yeah.
Are the exams timed?
Yes, that's the thing about the exams. Good question. So in order for the exams to be even remotely meaningful, because you're not prohibited from using any resource at all, I had to put a time limit on the exams because I had people crazy spending a day on them, because they want to go through all their notes, and maybe they weren't as prepared as far as being literate with the basic material. And that totally defeats the purpose of what the exam is. So again, you're not limited. Like no one's looking over your shoulder, and it doesn't bother me even a little bit for you to use the course notes and anything else to help you answer these questions, but you do have to answer them relatively quickly. So if you have a reading issue for yourself, let me know in advance. If you have an accommodation, you'll get more time. If you don't have an accommodation but you should, and you tell me that you should, I'll just believe you. And I can adjust the time for anybody who wants to who might need it. But it's definitely, I will tell you right now, nobody who does well on the exams did it because they found all the answers in their notes while they were taking it. They did it because they just prepared for it. Good question, though. The grading scale is, I do the A minus, B plus, all the way down to a C, and then 50% to almost 80% is a C in this class, and it's because it's a graduate class. That's the bottom. Well, you can fail, but no one's going to fail. So that's the grading scale for the class. I have due dates for everything I have a calendar, and everything is due by Friday, December 3rd, good and early. That'll give me a chance to get everything graded during exam week. I do have a calendar here that will, that you should keep in mind. And again, it looks fairly simple because we're such a short class, but it does tell you when everything is due specifically. And so that's the calendar. Everything is due Sunday at midnight except the exam and project part 1, exam number 2, because Halloween is on Sunday at midnight, and that would just be horrible too. Wouldn't that be terrible? You finally get a night out, and you have a costume, and then you remember you have to go take an exam. That would be terrible. Nobody likes that. So that's been pushed. So that's the calendar of events. If anything gets changed, I'll email you, and it'll be reflected here online. As far as the menu goes, the class is actually broken up into 5 parts. And when you hover over the assignments and you go to part 1, you'll see there's an introduction to those, information about the project, what the reading assignments are. And then I have practice over specific sets of objectives for different parts. So part 1, exam number 1 will address part 1, and there's a review there. So every little piece of information is all here for each of the parts. So they're all there. There's a link to the city training right up here. So if you need to know where to go to sign up or to take it, just click on that. I have specific information about the 2 projects are located under this menu item. And again, you can orient yourself to this later. There's a link to the D2L. That's where online where you'll take the exams, check your grades, and also submit your projects. And then this is really important. On the resources tab, first of all, I'm going to go down to course notes because I want to point out that I wrote up, like if this was a traditional class and you came to listen to me talk about really important things, you might sit there and write down stuff related to the things I wanted you to learn, related to the objectives. So this file right here are all of those things you would write down. They're just already written down for you. Not the best way to do it, but there they are. And they're all aligned by each objective. So there is nothing in the exams, nothing that isn't going to be measured that isn't in the reading, and then those notes take from the readings and pull out the specific information. So this is a really important file. And as I suggest in red, they might be updated possibly throughout the semester, though I just updated them this like 3 months ago. And I feel pretty good about where I'm at with them. There's a few little things that I always need to tweak because it didn't make sense. And so if I change the note files, I will totally let you know. I also, sometimes I'll have students who say they don't understand something specifically. Like for example, so I have a tab under resources called Note Elaborations, and I'll reference this in an announcement. Like for example, if I go to variables, I explain more what different types of variables are on this because I use a term like independent variable, and I have notes on it in there. What is an independent variable and how is it different from a dependent variable or an extraneous variable? Those are really important concepts in the field of research, and if you don't quite understand it from the notes, then if you ask me about it, I'll probably go and make another page to help explain it to you. So that's how I roll. So last semester I ended up with a few of those. Let me move this out of the way. A few note elaborations, one on the scientific method and one on this concept called operationalization, one of my favorite scientific concepts. And there's a learning objective about it, but somebody was having, not just somebody, it was one of those things where a lot of people missed questions about it on the exam. So I kicked out the item and then I made some more notes about it. But I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at with the important course notes. There's other resources too that will help you. There's information about writing using APA formatting, which is expected. Also related to the project, you're going to be doing some projects related to reading and literacy research, and I have some information about that. And these might be updated throughout the semester. So that's just a good overview of the course website. The way you're going to start this course when you're ready is at the very bottom of the homepage. I say, okay, we'll click on the course introduction. And you click on that, and that'll take you to a page that's also accessible from the course introduction. I have a tab up here called Course Introduction. And you'll read through this information and react and respond and all of that just to yourself. It's you and the website. That's the learning experience. Very intimate. And so that's the website. That's where everything is being presented. I don't know if you've ever, I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to explain something to you real quickly. And that is, if you've ever had a class that a teacher present, an online class, and they use D2L for it, or another learning management system, I bet what you learned was that it's kind of a clunky way to present information. It's not very, it doesn't present it in a way that you would sort of interact with information in the real world. So I've tried to make our class information presented in a way that's a lot more sort of natural to being an online person. So that's why I use a website and present things with drop-down menus and navigating that way. Because you know what? People take that for granted, but navigating a space online is really important. And being able to do it in a natural way, and in a way that makes sense, like good websites, it just makes sense because because you've shaped it. You know, we all shaped what Amazon.com looks like. We all shaped what Google looks like. Or did it shape us? I don't want to think about that. That's pretty heavy. So, but that's why it's presented a little bit differently than what you might be used to. So, all right, that's the end of my presentation, end of my orientation. So if anybody has any questions, I appreciated the ones we've already had, but if you have any more, just now's your chance.
When I was looking under assignments where it shows like the part one, and it gives you can like see the notes, or kind of goes over what we would read, and then and it said do not take this exam until you're ready. That's not the real exam. Is that just the test one?
That's just the test. Yeah, I put practice items online that are exactly what you see on an exam, like on the D2L. I mean exactly. I mean it's different content, but exactly the same things being measured. And there's nothing that will be on the exam that isn't that you don't have some practice over. Now, granted, it may only be one practice item over one objective, but at least you'll understand how it's going to be measured. And the reason why I said don't take that until you've studied is because some people would think differently about it, and they just want to go and say, well, I wonder if I could just take this, if I know this, do I know this? If I had like 100 items practice, I would say go for it. But because I don't have that many, it would be more beneficial to you instructionally if you waited until after you've reviewed the material before you took it. Only because I just don't have enough items for you to just, because my way of learning and my way of doing the city training, by the way, was I go in and I take the quiz first thing, and then it focuses my attention on stuff, and I'll go review it, and then I'll take it again, because it gives you different questions and all of that. And I think I learned it enough to not have to worry about learning it so much. But yes, so long answer is it's only because I don't have enough practice items which is why I recommend that you don't take them until after you've process the material.
Can you take them more than once?
Oh yeah, you take it as often as you want, but the problem is you'll just get the same questions. So it's really hard to write good questions. I mean, I shouldn't complain because my life is okay, except my dogs are gone. I don't know if I mentioned that, but there's that. But other than that, life is okay. It's just writing them, putting them in, and all that. It took longer than I thought it would this summer, so wish I could add more, but there you go. So I will make sure that as we go through the semester, I'll check in with you about, I'm going to remind you, I'll be emailing you and reminding you what's due when, so you'll get a message from me at the end of the week or at the beginning of a new week. And if any students decide that they would like to have any kind of a review session as a group or whatever, I'm completely up for that. If you feel the need for that, if there's project related issues that seem to be a lot of people having trouble with, again, I can meet individually or as a group. I'm super happy, whatever fits your schedule. So I'm up for that. Oh, also, and last.
I just have one more question.
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
All right, I'm like, so I did read about project one, and
Okay.
that we have to kind of come up with something to research.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if you had examples.
So what I did on the website is, that's really good. I saved my 3 favorite papers from 3 months ago, and honestly, I don't remember if I put them up there or not. We're gonna go find out right now. But I'll show you something that's helpful. There we go. So here I am on the course website, and I'm going to go to resources. I'm going to go to course texts and readings first of all, because I thought I had linked at the beginning of when I was putting this class together at the beginning of the semester. I didn't, but I will. I will put on this page on the course text and readings, I'll put some examples of actual papers that I thought were really good from my students. But then I also have under resources, for project resources, I have a lot of, on this page, I have some topics that are kind of popular in the reading and literacy research world right now. And I generated this from some of the work that was posted on the ILA and LRA websites. And I have links to some of those places if you're interested in like learning more about what research is being done in the field of reading and literacy. But I don't have any actual, but other than that, I don't have any actual like a list of research problems that people were sort of investigating. And again, you're investigating this from the perspective of someone who has an interest in an issue related to, hopefully related to your job, and this course will give you an opportunity to sort of investigate that a little bit and consider what might I be able to do, what might you be able to do if you were going to research it, like for real. What might you do? For example, my background is in educational psychology, and one thing that I always found just great about psychology in general is that the researchers who investigated various aspects of how people learn, they came up with such clever experiments, like really clever, simple and interesting and grounded in observations as well as the literature, and like honestly those when I mentioned the studies about learning styles, they're fascinating because most of the studies that are done to try and figure out if learning styles are real are so smart, and they're so clever how people chose to measure that. And so hopefully that's something that you'll be able to think a little bit about for yourself. Like if there's a variable that really you wonder about in your own practice. So my advice for that is to think about just your own job and what you've wondered about already, and it could be something big and broad, or it could be something really simple and focused, like whether or not this particular model that you've been taught actually works. All right, well, as I mentioned, I'm a very accessible person, so if you need to get a hold of me or talk with me or interact at all related to this class or anything, I'm here for you. And just if something comes up on the website that you don't understand, please let me know, because if you have a problem with it, somebody else probably does too. And a lot of the material from the website I had from this summer when I put this version of it, the one version of this version together, and so some things I might reference. I think I reviewed everything, but you just have to let me know if something doesn't make sense to you. All right, well, it was nice meeting all of you, and I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you online. All right,
Thanks.
bye.
Thank you.